Are you telling me that this worked all along? I've been having sound issues for like a year where I had to correct the sound every time. Was it all because that little knob was down? Man. Anyway, I'm recording. Hold on, I'm looking for the remote. I got the fan turned off because the fan makes too much noise. But now I got to push the button on the aircon, which is leaking water. Having a great week. Um, but that's good. That's how you know when it's time to clean the air conditioner. Not with any fancy technology or lights or anything. Certainly not by a schedule. We don't do things like that around here. Excuse me. Just have a sip of the drink. It's an icy drink. Let's have a look now. Is this working? Anyway, I'll just assume it's working. I had a couple things I wanted to go over. Let me see if I can go over the things. If I go back to my illustration folder, I want to do the last one. This one. This is all of the recent stuff I did. So this was the last one. Actually, I'll open it up in GIMP, my software here. Right, that might take up a lot of memory. Right, so this is the last one I did. It's called, well, my memory is, no, we're good. Okay, yeah, it's working. Yeah, it's called, what is it called? A slave jewelry blood shower. It's very dark and cryptic. So the idea with this one was to just let it go. I was watching Adam Duff's videos, and he does a lot of like Souls-like stuff. And I kind of like where he says he inspired me at one point. He says just paint. You know, sometimes you gotta just paint, and that's what I did. And with him in mind, and looking at the stuff he did, I kind of just came up with this thing. It was just fun, you know, letting my mind wander, and this happened. So I started with a skeleton monster kind of design. His four arms, and then I said, well, you know me. There's got to be an environment, and there's got to be a story behind it. So he's got chains, shackles on him. Then I made the shackles, and I was like, it kind of looks like jewelry. I was like, wouldn't that be interesting? Like if he's a slave, right, and he's captured down in a cell, and for him, his shackles are actually like beautiful jewelry. He was a monster, skeleton monster. And then just because also again, I was watching Adam Duff, and he was doing a lot of this type of dripping kind of effect at the time I was watching him, and I just came up with that kind of design, and I said, well, I guess it should be blood dripping down. That would be, appropriate. And there's a Polish artist I was looking at. And I explained this somewhere on DeviantArt in a journal, but he was doing this kind of technique where you have this veiny kind of stuff just popping up here and there. And so I did that. That was also from Adam Duff. What was his name? Belinsky. Duff is like really hard to pronounce based on the spelling. There's like DJS. The first like four characters of his first name are like all consonants. So it's like Jakov Belinsky, something Belinsky. I think a Polish nightmare artist. If you look up Polish nightmare artist, but yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Anyway, this came out of it. That's what I did. That came out like that. So the important part of this, and kind of what I'm bleeding into, is I'm just playing with the values a lot. It's really important, and you can always add color in later. That's kind of what I did there. And then with this one, I guess also if I go back, it should be in the correct folder, right? I have two versions of this. So I thought I might spin off in different directions. So here's how it started. Sometimes when I do like landscape kind of style painting, so I guess I'll decide when I start if I'm just doing like free painting, I guess is what I call this, just like painting without any ambition. It's not an illustration, just painting for painting's sake, right? What some people call the real art, but whatever. I think illustration and this can be combined. But anyway, the point was, so you see like each of these is a layer. It's a really easy way just to start off what do you call it, a landscape painting where each layer just it gets lighter as it goes back. And it doesn't have to be like that. Like I guess what needs to be understood is that it's not necessarily that the things that are closer to you are darker, but they'll have higher contrast. And so I started to work that in over here. We have like, this would be like higher contrast, but then I just decided to keep it dark just for that reason. So, I mean, I don't know. The point is, for me, this is a finished work right here, but nobody in their right mind will accept that, except for me. I'm the only person in the world. I try this before I put it on like DeviantArt or like Reddit and ask people what they think. They're like, "Nah, you gotta finish it." And I try to explain, but for me, I feel like this is finished. This is what it is. I just think that's so beautiful, just like that. There's different ways you can do it too. You can start off with the first one, the closest layer being lighter, and get darker into the background. That look like nighttime. In the daytime, normally the things that are closest to you have the highest contrast. So that just means that the darks would be darker here, and the lights will be lighter, and then it kind of tapers off. So everything eventually fades off into the distance into a monotone type of gray. And that's not 100% realistic. I mean, if you're on a really crystal clear day looking off into the mountains or a field or something, maybe not the mountains, but you can see many miles away and still see the grass is equally as green as it is just before your feet. But it kind of makes sense. Like there's usually a little bit of atmosphere, and so if it's a really far distance, which I didn't necessarily portray in this, I mean, like, do I have? Let me change that to like a red. So like this here, there's a character, kind of like a female nun-like character, kneeled down, and then there's another character here. So the distance from her to him, based on the perspective here, is not very far. And then the same thing happens from here to this guy. It does get significantly smaller, but if the vanishing point were here, like this, he'd only be, well, no, yeah, it's pretty damn far, I guess. It's pretty far. But just to say, the furthest person I have is here, and I figured anyone beyond that would be ridiculous. These two mountains are on the same layer, so if we were to start to draw people here, it would be like tiny little dots, and back there they'd be invisible, or just too insignificant to draw. I don't know. So there's a lot of thoughts with that. Then I came in here, and I'm still doing this. Is it Belinsky? I think it's Belinsky. Belinsky kind of stuff. I was playing the game, and some of the game is out in nature, and then there was a part where you go into like some futuristic or magical kind of alien technology place, and I was thinking I like both, right? And I'm always trying to divide or multiply, right? You want to divide or separate your fantasy from your science fiction. Some people like fantasy, some people like science fiction, and then you might start painting and you say, well, what is this? What is this? What is this one going to be? Is this going to be a fantasy, or is it going to be a sci-fi? Right? You make a decision. But then I stopped and I thought, well, if it's true that I'm doing whatever I want to do, then why do I have to feel? I shouldn't feel constrained by that. There shouldn't be a problem. It doesn't have to be like Souls. Excuse me. Sip of water there. It doesn't have to be like Souls. It doesn't have to be any genre. People like that kind of stuff. I mean, maybe it'll get you more views, more hits, and it's good to narrow yourself. Some people say, well, Adam Duff said that. But then again, if you're painting for yourself and you're being true to yourself, just do whatever you want. So some of this stuff down here, I'm thinking about Giger, or Geiger, I don't know how to pronounce it. H.R. Geiger, the guy who did the Alien. I didn't even care they did Alien. I just love his art. Like he's an airbrush artist, and he would always make a lot of pipes and stuff integrated with female sexual forms and some other stuff, and it's kind of weird. Hmm. So anyway, that's where I am right now. We'll zoom in here. You have all that stuff in there. So what'd you do? I'm on the top layer. Is it going like this? Clean some of this up a bit. I was working on a children's book. I keep thinking it's kind of weird. I'm working on something like a children's book, and then suddenly jump over and start doing some weird, creepy stuff like this. But I don't know. It doesn't matter really. I don't think it should matter. What does matter is I got the wrong brush here. I turn the opacity down a little bit. Basically, in a situation like this, I think everything's fine. I just kind of want to detail it a bit. Look at that, you can see the pixels. When you see the pixels, you know you've gone in too far. That's enough. Put this one over here. Do I need that kind of highlights? I guess, I don't know. Yeah. I'm fiddling around. Be fiddling around a lot here. So I don't know if there's really any light source. There should be. Well, there has to be, or you won't see anything. If there's no light source, you can't see anything. I'm pretty sure you can tell I'm not at optimum energy right now. Oh man, just like a long, torturous week. One of those weeks where everything kind of goes south. Do I have a... Oh, is this working? Opacity's too low? Why isn't it working? Huh? Oh. Brush size too small. Okay. So I get this in here, that over there, right? These are going behind this area, right? Something like here. It's just, undeveloped. But I have all these values here. Different shades of gray, so I can just pick a color with a color picker and go in there and shoot in some highlights and some shade where need be. Like that. So, in theory, when I zoom out, it'd look a little more refined, But I also want it to look sinewy. Sinew. It's kind of like a new word for me. I don't frequently use the word sinew. Where do you pick up the word sinew? Sinew means veiny and liney, and usually thinking of in terms of the flesh. So you'd be more likely to hear this word probably in horror novels or something. There's a little secret back here. You see there's one little pipe coming down. These are like pipes, or are they pipes, or are they veiny things? And that's a part where I'm kind of struggling with right now. I'm not getting it exactly how I want it. But I'm thinking if these can be both pipes and veins at the same time, then we get that HR Giger. That's something I didn't finish my thought there. So I was talking about HR Giger, I just like his thoughts, or his, not his thoughts. I like his, his way of portraying stuff sometimes. Yeah, I like that. But also don't want it to be just like so random. So that's where I'm kind of getting hung up here. So originally this area here is going to be a tree. Maybe a giant trunk of a tree coming about in this one. So see, like right there, I'll go back to the tree in a minute. There's lots of good values up here. This is symbolic, so I'm mostly putting this stuff in. But what I'd want to do is come back later. Somebody's getting in trouble downstairs. I hear some yelling. The boy's been really bad in the past few days. Kids just, they flare up every once in a while. You get a kid and they're just like, I guess, attention seeking or whatever. And all of a sudden they just go troublesome. Right. Okay. So I didn't finish two thoughts. One is that I'm trying to flesh these out. So this could be pipes and vines integrated into, and that's what I loved about, if I got his name right at all, I'm just going to start calling him the Polish nightmare artist. I think it was Belinsky. I can't remember. You know, in Poland, the names usually have like a ski or something, right? So my grandmother was Polish, so I'm not saying that with any malice. Somebody's getting yelled at proper. Okay. So to have it look a bit more veiny, and also keep in mind Giger. They kind of have something in common if you look at both their works. There's just this freedom. So you don't really know what universe you're in, but particularly with H.R. Geiger Counter, he was. You can just see in his work that there's like some freedom. Now I happen to know, because I pay attention to as much of him, any info I can get out of him. I had one of his books, I believe, the art book. I can't find too much online. You have to like physically buy a physical copy of his books, and I don't really want to do that right now because of my location. It's expensive shipping. Anyway, this one right here, come down a little bit. So everything kind of smooths in. I don't want it to look. So I keep telling you I'm going to go back to my original thoughts, and I keep losing track. But it's all. That's what this is all about. Creative process. So with Guy, it's natural, but it's mechanic, that kind of thing. And so I just thought, what if the mechanics and blended into like a nature scene actually, and that is where Blinsky came in. He kind of has that, where it's just not really mechanics, but he has this weird way of looking at biology, where he makes this like sinew kind of look, and it all just seems to just blend into whatever else he's drawing. So some kind of mechanics and pipes, could be even electronics. And so I was thinking, like, if it's a mix of science fiction and fantasy with an abstract kind of feel, then what I would do here, if I can pull it off, is also make these like pipes and wires look a little bit technological. So then this could be an ongoing thing for me, where I would need to define, which things are acceptable in this type of look, this type of feeling that I'm going for. So you say, for example, how about some gears, right? I don't think gears are going to be good. So pulleys and levers. What they have in a car, in a motor vehicle. They have things like I can't remember what you call it, like wheels with the belts. You have like belts and wheels and things like that. It's not 100% clear, but just like that. So that's one small little area you can see right there. So I'll move the canvas around a bit. Just add some highlight right here a little bit. Just add a little character to this spot here. It's meant to be very dark, but give a little character. Character is the key word here, really. See how I can drag my lines down in sort of like a vertical position well, but I can't go. That's why I flip the canvas like that. I rotate the canvas. I can go up and down kind of pretty well, but not so much with like going this way. Then I have to bend my elbow and I just get lazy. And it's painful too. You have to twist your elbow all around. So that right there, I mean, it's almost there, but it's just incredibly artsy. I would say this is another great thing, another great lesson from Belinsky's work, and a point that Adam Duff was trying to make, is that the way that he would just keep working at it, right? You have some subtle little pipes in the back here, so it just feels like there's so many of them. Okay. And the more you look at it, the more they might start to pop out, right? There's one here, one there, one over here. So you think it's done, and then there's a few more in the background, and they just kind of seem to go into the depths forever. That kind of feeling. Right. So then you get a kind of sinewy kind of look. And that, it might just blend into, like with grass popping up here. Something like that. So something like that, it's just kind of fun to do that, I think. And that's the whole point, is that I don't have to think too much because I'm just doing black and white. And then I can just spend hours when I need to be alone and meditate and stuff, and just work on that stuff and polish it. This one here, I'm going to use full opacity for this. So right here, just have it pop out a little bit. Right. So grassiness and the leafiness can kind of blend in with the that stuff. If I do that for a while, then somewhere along the way, I think something should occur to me. That's kind of the point. Like doing things like this, you always think of, right, I'm on full opacity now. I can shape out some of this here. You always think of like new things along the way. So like right now, I'm just doing this, and it seems logical. But it doesn't really make any sense, does it? I'm just doing things. Some of the tips of the grass here. There's a little bit of grass. And you just kind of try and make it make sense a little bit at a time. And they come up well with that, basically. That would be like, one half finished little section there. So if I continue to do that, let me flip it. There's this combination of, technology and some foliage, which I hope eventually will turn into something like over here. I'd have some. One thing I think is really important. So I just made an example right here. So I have like not all the trees are well developed or old, ancient, masterful trees. You have some like saplings from time to time. need saplings, and not all the grass is just like random, like tall grass or mature grass. You'll have some like random, like crabgrass and a weed over here, and all these random things, right? You need to add that. So the more in like wildlife, it'll be like one flower here, a bunch of flowers over there, or sprawled out. It's never like perfect, like just grassiness, and it has to be all randomized. And the same thing goes with this kind of the techie stuff I'm adding. It's symbolic of sci-fi. So I could even go into the tree here, and maybe it's a perfectly natural tree, but I could like cut out a section right here and start to do some veininess. I'm not going to do that necessarily at this moment, but I could. Let me see if I get the right color. Right. For no reason. That definitely doesn't belong there. That's way too bright. So the one thing that I am keeping, and this is what I guess, this is where you'd call it surreal, is that I am trying to keep it realistic in terms of like objects and values. So that would make this surrealistic, which probably can be said also of Geiger and the Polish artist. Just kind of realistic looking things, but with a lot of free form to it without thinking too much. And so the imagination operates at the same time. So yeah. So the girl here, as I said in the previous one, and I started sketching around, and I said, wow, what are you going to add? You know, every time you make something and you decide you want it to be a little bit dark, you add a skull, right? So there's added a skull. It's a little cliche, but for the meantime, I think, you know, it's okay to have a cliche skull. And I said, well, I have a skull there. I always like when the skull or the mouth, especially if it's a big one on the side, the mouth has something going through it. So you have something like a tunnel going in there. Now you'd say, well, if you have a tunnel going in the mouth, what'll happen? So maybe you could go in the tunnel, come back out the other side, come out over here, back down, and then over here there'd be a bridge, because bridges are always awesome. And then there'd be another skeleton back there. So that'd be like a composition with some flow. I'm thinking I could bridge this one from here to there. And then it would need some supports that go like that. This one here, I started to draw a support. You can see, and I have like 1, 2, 3. But first I have to make it look like a proper bridge, and then I have to figure out how to get the value to properly taper off from this one to that one. So I started to work on that, and that's why I just have this junk here. It's just a sketch to remind me for later to work on that. Right now I'm still focused on this first layer here. This will set the tone, I think, for the look of things. All this stuff here, I like how that looks. It's starting to look okay. And this here, this needs some work. But I need to flesh it out some more. So how it merges with the greenery, which will be, well, not green, but foliage. And then, so that'll set the, this will set the detail level and the expectations of the style. And then I'll go back to the next layer, which is all this one here. And you can see I started to flesh it out a little bit, but I'll add the same kind of effect, but it'll just be further away. And that's it. I'll be going on like that for quite some time. Okay, I'll just leave this video here. A little tired. I have a really bad headache. Yesterday, I did some exercise. I was thinking about doing this video and having it more entertaining and talk about some funny stuff. I was listening to some comedy and some other stuff and everything, but, you know, I'm tired, so I just leave it like that for now. Oh yeah, so the one thing, but before I go, I was going to talk about like the tree. So I mean, you know, there's going to be a tree, and I said, well, you know, I'm doing a tree. Does it have to be a tree? Maybe it can use that technology stuff. Maybe it's not a tree. It looks like a tree, but it is a bunch of wires. So that'll make you think a little bit. Is it a tree or is it wires? And how everything blends together. And then we can figure out, if we like that or not later. Well, what if we had some, see what happens when you start thinking and you're working on stuff? What if we had some like mushrooms? The trees often have mushrooms on them. And the mushrooms could turn into like another type of technology or something. So we have to do that. Put some mushrooms over here so you can tell they're going up. Yeah. What else goes up trees? Maybe some moss or something will be coming up around here. So figure that out later. Right, and that's another thing maybe to make this more sinewy. I keep wondering, because it looks a bit too techy, or I want the techy look but mixed with sinewiness. So what if, I'll go back to this layer, in some areas it was just kind of like branching off and merging. Right, see, I didn't have to think, it just happened. Just keep working, and eventually something will come of it. Something like that, right. So we get the branching lightning kind of effect. Merging up into the wires. That'll work. So right here now, this will become, I'm just kind of pronouncing this. I have something to go behind the wires and in front and wrap around. So it's like viney. I'm doing this particularly just so I don't forget about it later. Right, that's going to be the look, because that mixes with my lightning style that I like. Okay, so that's going to be kind of the look that goes all over. Right, okay, so that's it. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye.